Lunchroom on RCI. Food for thought. The station that gives you, more lunch.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. It is Wednesday, the 30th of July, 2025, and we are on to program number 1417 of the Lunchroom. I'm your host, Calix George Jr. Of course, in addition to radio 101.1 FM, you can also get us at our website, rcistlucia.com, and we are streaming live up and running on our Facebook feed. You just have to search for the official page of Radio Caribbean International. Please be sure to like and share that link as well with your friends and family. Now, of course, if you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, the number to do so, it is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And also, you have the option of messaging in on our WhatsApp number, and that is 724-0008. And of course, don't forget, you can also call in on that number if you so prefer. Again, that number, 724-0008. And we just want to send out some birthday greetings for today to Miss Mr. Raymond Volney. Happy birthday to you, sir. And we're hoping that you're having a fantastic birthday celebration. Hope it is an absolutely fantastic and wonderful birthday for you. Also sending birthday greetings to Mr. Robert Gray. Happy birthday to you, sir. And we do hope you're having a wonderful birthday as well. A look back in time, in the year 1792, on this day, 500 Marseillaise men sang France's national anthem for the first time. Of course, it's called the Marseillaise. And in the year 1937, the Soviet Politburo issues an order, and that ends up banning certain books, property owning kulaks, and as well, a number of persons were arrested as a result of that, and 76,000 people being executed. And it was known as the Great Purge. We now move on to our dish of the day. The Daily Dish is brought to you the kind compliments of our good friends at Tiles Plus.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. With all kind of tiles, come down to Tiles Plus. We also glad gas and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down, don't mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Jugosile, and Slack Street in Dufort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tiles Plus.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to our program for today. And of course, don't forget, it's going to be a very short dish of the day because we're hoping to have joining us very soon Miss Renata Shalmine of Republic Bank Eastern Caribbean Limited. That's around 1:15 for our slated Republic Corner. But of course, before we get to that, I just wanted to make mention of some St. Lucians who have been awarded in 2025 Chevening scholarships. And I think it is certainly well in order that we extend our congratulations to them. In fact, there's a story on the St. Lucia Times indicating just that. I just want to share that right now. 3 St. Lucians have been awarded prestigious Chevening scholarships and will depart for the United Kingdom in September to pursue postgraduate studies. Ronaldo Degazo, Kina Nicholas, and Jevanik Henry were selected from a global pool of applicants to join the UK government-funded program, which offers full financial support for a one-year master's degree at any UK university. Degazo will pursue an MSc in data science at Lancaster University. He described his selection as a relief, having applied unsuccessfully the previous year. I quote, "This year I put more work into my interview, especially," he said, crediting former scholars who reached out and helped him prepare. Quote, "It was as if God was orchestrating the stars to align for me to get it this year," he added. He added that he is excited to earn his degree, explore Europe for the first time, and connect with an international academic community. Keena Nicholas and Jevanik Henry will both study climate change development and policy at the University of Sussex, currently ranked first globally for development studies. For Nicholas, the award represented more than personal achievement. Quote, "Being a Chevening scholar is an honor and a deep responsibility," she said. "It's a manifestation of my Caribbean spirit dream to serve, to lead with great purpose, and to be a bridge between local realities and global solutions," end quote. Henry, who works with the UN Climate Change Secretariat, said the program aligns with his goal of further supporting climate action in St. Lucia and across small island developing states. It promises a balanced approach where I'm able to understand even more deeply the linkages between climate and other sectors, he said. It's an opportunity to learn from the best in the field and then come back and support our climate-related efforts. He added that as St. Lucia and other countries have submitted revised national climate plans, his studies will position him to help implement those commitments more effectively. Chevening scholarships are awarded to individuals with leadership potential and a strong professional background. The scheme is funded by the UK Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office and partner organizations. That story coming from the St. Lucia Times. And of course, congratulations to them. These individuals are very well placed to be able to make a difference. And I think that's one of the things that this particular scholarship program aims at, trying to find persons who are engaged in community, in some form of civic action, who may be in an NGO, who may have served, and they look for that certainly as one of the marks that they want to be able to have for individuals to be able to get that helping hand through a scholarship. And certainly in this instance, 3 St. Lucians being able to win that scholarship, I think is certainly quite a success, because it's not guaranteed the number of there's no necessarily 1 or 2 or 3 persons getting it every year for St. Lucia. It's something that they have to compete for with a number of other individuals from around the world, as of course was mentioned. So it is certainly quite a great achievement that we can see 3 St. Lucians being able to do that and pursue their master's programs in the United Kingdom. And of course, as mentioned, 2 of them are doing it in climate change, which is so very important right now as we're looking at the challenges and being able to access the funding, develop the projects that can in fact get the right type of funding, understand the issues surrounding climate change and climate change policy is really very important. And so it's good to see that we're seeing those individuals being able to get that experience through this academic opportunity that is there. And of course, the other individual pursuing an MSc in data science, well, that is a critical area right now. Data analytics, data science is driving a lot of what happens right now. It is about big data. It's about being able to manage lots of different metrics and being able to ensure how those things can be applied. And so it's certainly wonderful that we are seeing that. And I think Mr. Degazo is actually the son of the island's cabinet secretary, Mr. Augusto Degazo. Stand to be corrected, but I believe so. And so, of course, certainly congratulations to him and his family on that achievement. Now, as I said, we're still going to be waiting for that call. It has not yet come in, so let's hope that we can see that happen pretty soon with respect to Republic Bank. But in the meantime, though, that's our dish of the day. And when we come back, we'll see if we can get a response from them. If not, we're going to take in some other matters that have been dominating the airwaves.
Girl, I've been so...
This has been The Daily Dish.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. With all kind of tiles, come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gas and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Grozile, and Slack Street in Dufort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tiles Plus.
All right, welcome back to our program here at the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. Now, I just got word, unfortunately, that Republic Bank can't come in today for the Republic Corner. We're going to try to reschedule that probably for tomorrow or Friday. Of course, that's right. Just Friday is, in fact, a holiday. Emancipation Day, August 1st. So let's see if it can happen tomorrow, maybe. We'll see and we'll confirm on that one, no doubt. But it would have been a pretty interesting one. Today's topic was supposed to be about first-time home buyers, and no doubt that would have been pretty important for a lot of people out there looking at trying to seek out a mortgage or get their own home. So we'll come back to that at some point. But another matter, of course, that has been pretty topical of late has been that of the issue of cost of living and the matter of inflation. And we've seen the challenges with respect to the increase in prices. And of course, I mean, it certainly is a worldwide issue, but it is really the same, in fact, regardless, the impact of people on their pockets and the reality that your dollar is not stretching as far as it used to. And it certainly has been a challenge for governments all around the world to be able to respond to this issue of rising inflation. It usually would take, I think, somewhere around 24 years, I was reading, just the general rate of inflation of about 2 to 3% for prices to, in fact, double. So we do know that we are going to expect that prices are going to go up and increase. But a lot of people, of course, are saying that what can be done to be able to control inflation and to reduce and to improve on the cost of living. Not an easy thing. Over in Canada, for example, where they were fighting with the rising prices in the supermarkets, there were threats by the former Prime Minister, Mr. Trudeau, Justin Trudeau, suggesting that he would take certain actions against supermarkets. We perhaps are not in as strong a position to be able to do that, of course, because one of the major issues, of course, is that we are heavily dependent on imports. A lot of what we utilize is not produced locally and is pretty much dependent on the impacts of inflation from the source markets that we are dealing with. And of course, a lot of the products that we utilize are coming out of the United States. It may not necessarily be produced in the United States, but based on the supply chain, how we're getting it in, the goods coming in, invariably a lot of it is passing through the United States of America, whether through middlemen, whatever it is. And so that has that knock-on effect in terms of prices at the supermarket. Of course, shipping has been another major issue at play. And again, highly dependent on the Port of Miami, on trade coming out of Miami into the Caribbean. And what that has meant is that if there are increased prices of shipping, that gets compounded into the price of goods, right? Because at the end of the day, we are paying the cost of the good plus the freight and insurance on that good, the CIF price, and so that certainly has its impacts on the overall price of goods. So, of course, the other major issue is one of monopolies. And we've seen in the case of St. Lucia, when it comes to supermarkets, we have a major player who by far is the largest player within the market. It's not to say that there are not other players, but that company has the greatest spread in terms of market presence, in terms of different supermarket stores, and so the fact that you have that ability to be that leading player, it really allows then for the price to be almost set unilaterally by that player. And so it is one of the other major issues when it comes to our market, albeit we are a small market, and so it is one of the challenges. I mean, in the past, we have heard of suggestions. I think back to the 1990s, there was a talk at that time of a Kmart coming to St. Lucia, maybe to be built in the cul-de-sac Valley area. That was when there was this whole talk about cul-de-sac becoming the new Castries, and that was supposed to have been a flagship chain coming in. Ironically enough, Kmart is almost no more in terms of the world's commercial scenes, and it just goes to show how times have changed and how the retail scene is changing constantly. But we are effectively still seeing that issue in terms of a lack of competition in the supermarket sector. You compare other places, and it's not to say that you still won't have the issues of inflation, but the ability for the market to regulate itself via competition sometimes certainly saves a couple cents on the dollar in terms of the costs of goods and items. So that certainly is very important. But that is a private sector matter, and effectively the state can't really control very much beyond that. What the state can control are the taxes that are put on these goods, and in some instances, via legislation, it can also set the markups regarding items, and those are known as price control items. And those items tend to be what are seen as things that everybody would use. The average person, particularly persons of a lower socioeconomic background, things that they would find in their shopping cart, go-to items that they need to be able to survive. And so, of course, things like certain canned things, baby food products, bread is price controlled as well, and oil and other items that everybody needs to put in. There are, in fact, markups, maximum markups that the retailer and wholesaler can place on those items. And we have been hearing a bit more about this issue of price control and what should be on it. And in fact, one of the measures that the government announced is that in addition to those items being set with set markups, the government has decided to also remove the service charge on those price control items. I think that represents about a 5.5%, was it 6% amount, which nearly every good coming into St. Lucia is actually levied. And so certainly that's welcome. And let's hope we can see some of the benefits in that regard. The other major issue, of course, which has always been very topical, has been about the value added tax. Now, the reality is, even before the VAT, we always had taxes on goods. And those were called consumption taxes. There was a C tax that, as well as sometimes excise tax that would be placed on various items, and sometimes pretty high consumption taxes as well. And so what effectively the value added tax did was that it changed that entire system so that it's not taxing only the goods, but also goods and services. And so within that context, the idea was to spread the reach of the tax base. But in addition to that, the system that was put in place involved what was known as an input VAT and an output VAT. And we, the end user, we pay the final VAT. But the importer, the individual who is selling the good, they will tend to be paying an input VAT at the point of entry, bringing the item into the country. And of course, they're supposed to balance that out and eventually remit the necessary difference to the government. The reason why I'm even mentioning that is because what has been in place is effectively three tax bands, three general tax states that exist for the value added tax. One being items that have the standard VAT, which is 12.5% of the product value. The other being what is known as zero rated item, and the other being a VAT exempt item. And you may be wondering already, zero rated, VAT exempt. That sounds pretty similar. What's the difference here? And it really comes down to whether, in fact, an individual retailer can claim that VAT that they, in fact, maybe not necessarily the VAT that they're paying on the item, but the value of other things that they are putting to have that item on the shelf. So let me try to explain that a little bit in that regard. You have a zero rated item. You are, in fact, you can claim for that item to some degree. So a supermarket, for example, has items on the shelf, but it's also paying rent. It's also, in some instances, getting other services that are VATable, right? So when it's paying for those other services, let's say maintenance services, it brings in a company to do certain things and they pay VAT on that. Those services, in a situation where they are actually paying VAT, they can actually claim that back, right? But if in fact they don't have that opportunity, if an item is VAT exempt, then they really can't claim for anything VAT related on which is impacting the cost of that item. So when you pay an item, you're paying for the value of the item plus some of the other services to make sure that that item is on the shelves, right? And that's where the issue is with respect to a difference between the zero rated and the VAT exempt items. So in essence, the long and short of it is, for a retailer, it's better for all items to be zero rated and none of the items to be VAT exempt, because in the VAT exempt situation, they end up being in a sort of a worse off situation. And so that's why they would prefer to have items being VAT exempt. So, of course, in comes now the debate on this entire matter. And so as a result of the Prime Minister and Minister for Finance announcing at the budget this year, back in May, I think, was it? Was it April? Sorry, that he was going to be introducing changes to the status of a number of items that were currently either VAT exempt or have the standard GST, and shifting those two classes of items towards a zero rated VAT. Now, we've recently heard from a newcomer in the electoral scene, and that is Mr. Titus Previll, who is hoping to win the Babonneau seat in the upcoming general election, whenever it is in fact called. Now, of course, Mr. Previll is no doubt pretty oko, I would imagine, when it comes to matters of trade, and I would also say matters relating to the VAT as well, because he did in fact serve for many years in the Department of Commerce and Trade here in St. Lucia. But it certainly seemed to have been one of the things he took issue with, suggesting that somehow the matter was obfuscation, and that really and truly there was no difference in the policy that was being brought forward. And he was saying that, they were of the 70 items that the government was mentioning regarding becoming zero-rated items, that 20 or 25 of them were VAT-exempt items already, and so there would be no difference. And he said that this was some form of obfuscation. Now, in the first instance, I think it's a little unfair, because that statement was made on more than one occasion by the Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, indicating that it was a mix of both zero-rated and standard VAT items that were now going to be, VAT exempt and standard VAT items that were now going to become zero-rated items. But we do have that clip available from Miss Emma Hippolyte, and we're going to come to that clip in a little while, because we actually do have to take in our weather report. So we'll head across to take that in first. When we come back to the program, we'll share the response from the island's Minister for Commerce.
Girl, I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home.
Really?
Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with these tile stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up.
What are you looking for?
Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle-dazzle.
Okay, Ms. Razzle Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Style Tile and Bath, they're my #1 store for everything tile. And with their new In Living Color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous styles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for.
That sounds perfect.
I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation.
I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our Island Style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and View Fort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. We'll help bring your vision to life in living color.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
The forecast for St. Lucia valid for the next 24 hours. Winds will be blowing from between the east and northeast and east-southeast near 18 miles per hour or 30 kilometers per hour. Weather: partly cloudy skies, becoming cloudy at times with some light moderate showers. Forecast for the Lesser Antilles: partly cloudy skies, becoming cloudy at times with some light to moderate showers. Tropical weather outlook: The Atlantic high pressure system will generate light to moderate easterly winds over the Lesser Antilles during the next few days. A weak to low surface trough system will provide occasional cloudiness and some scattered showers over the region during the next 24 hours. Two tropical waves located over the central and eastern tropical Atlantic will be moving westward near 12 miles per hour or 19 kilometers per hour and 21 miles per hour or 33 kilometers per hour respectively. Tropical cyclone formations is not expected over the tropical Atlantic during the next 7 days. And of course, that was your weather report.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Girl, I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home.
Really?
Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with the tile stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up.
What are you looking for?
Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle dazzle.
Okay, Ms. Razzle Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Style Tile and Bath, they're my number one store for everything tile. And with their new In Living Color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous styles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for.
That sounds perfect.
I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation.
I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our Island Style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and View Fort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. We'll help bring your vision to life in living color.
All right, and welcome back to the lunchroom at Radio Caribbean International. Of course, thanks for the weather there. Now, I think we're still hearing the stinger. Okay. All right, wonderful. And of course, the number to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, it is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. If you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate, please be sure to do just that. And of course, as well, 724-0008. Now, we did have that clip, as I indicated, of coming out of HTS News. And it was an interview given by the island's Minister for Commerce in response to the statements that were made by Mr. Titus Preville, the endorsed candidate for the United Workers' Party for the constituency of Babonneau. Of course, Ms. Hippolyte, also the MP for Soufrière Forcé Jacques. So let's take a listen to this this news clip at this time. Okay, so we're going to try to get that clip playing. But as soon as we can get that sorted out, we will bring it to you. And of course, the proposals, they're no longer proposals. They, in fact, have taken, will take effect starting August 1st, which is Emancipation Day. And no doubt, let's hope that we can see them making some a dent in the cost of some of the cost of living issues that are, in fact, many people, of course, have to be dealing with. Now, of course, we've been seeing that married to a number of other policy measures being brought forward by the government. One of them, of course, has been the matter of the minimum wage. And perhaps for a lot of people, perhaps for the majority of the population, the minimum wage is not going to impact you, but it certainly does impact a very vulnerable segment of the population. Those individuals who, prior to this year and its adoption, were effectively making less than $1,000 a month. And of course, we heard about some of the wage situations, some of them even lower than sometimes $500 a month. I mean, so very, very, very difficult situations, and very difficult to imagine how those individuals were in fact, faring with some of those salaries or those wages. And so certainly the introduction of that minimum wage, bringing it to, I think, what is it, $11.36 a month, is certainly pretty important for a lot of people. And of course, in addition to that, the ability to try to influence a reduction in prices is also a very, very difficult undertaking itself. In fact, we saw over in the neighboring island of Martinique how that was a matter which led to public protest. It became pretty violent, in fact, over there, and led to a long standoff of negotiations between certain actors and the national government in an attempt to try to reduce the prices of items over on Martinican supermarket shelves. I believe we do have that clip available now, so we're going to share it for you at this time, Ms. Emma Hippolyte, as part of that pre-cabinet press briefing held on Monday.
On Monday, Commerce Minister Emma Hippolyte responded to remarks made by Titus Prevel, the newly endorsed United Workers' Party UWP candidate for Babono and a former permanent secretary in the Ministry of Commerce. Prevel, at his Sunday rally launch, criticized the SLP government's initiative to zero-rate value-added tax, VAT, on some 70 grocery items, contending that approximately 25 of these were already VAT exempt, implying a disingenuous presentation of the policy. However, the minister moved to clarify the distinctions between, quote, zero-rated and, quote, VAT-exempt classification, a nuanced differentiation often lost in public debate. She also explains that the negotiating process with the business community and stakeholders is not an overnight exercise.
We had sat down with stakeholders, we had sat down with the Ministry of Commerce, with the members of the Chamber of Commerce, Lisbon. We sat down and arrived at a list of items that we wanted to be zero-rated. Now the main issue is, what's the difference between VAT exempt and zero-rated? And you said it several times. If an item is VAT exempt, that is, there is no VAT on the item for the consumer. However, the business person who is operating cannot claim the VAT associated with the sale of that item. However, when an item is zero-rated, again, the consumer does not get the VAT, but the business place can claim the expenditure associated with the sale of that item. Why is it important? And I think, again, in my presentation in Parliament, I clarified it several times. The business community then have the opportunity to share that savings, that VAT savings, with the general public. So it has an implication in terms of bringing down the price of that item.
In simple terms, when an item is, quote, zero-rated, the store selling it also gets a tax break on their costs, so they are encouraged to lower prices. If an item is just, quote, VAT exempt, consumers still don't pay sales tax, but the store doesn't get that tax break, meaning they might not reduce prices as much. So, quote, zero rating helps businesses avoid losing money, making them more likely to pass savings on to you, the shopper. Officials explain that this clever approach aims to lower grocery bills, even though the government collects less tax. The minister challenged Preville's recent assertion that a future UWP government would introduce new policies to manage pricing prices.
He was the permanent secretary, the head of the Ministry of Commerce. He was the technical head of the Ministry of Commerce for all this time, and he has not prepared. He did not present one policy statement to the government that was not implemented. What head is he now going to put to bring new suggestions now?
Hippolyte asserted that the Ministry of Commerce has significantly evolved beyond its previous state when Preville was at the helm.
If you look at where the Ministry of Commerce was yesterday and where it is today, a vast difference. Not only in price control items and what we're doing now in terms of containing high prices, when you look at our MSME program, when you look at our Love St. Lucia program, that's a ministry that has moved way beyond where Mr. Preville was. And this government and this country is not going back. We are moving forward.
The minister underscored the cooperation received from stakeholders, including businesses, but explains that the government has the capacity to undertake alternative measures.
I brought you attention that we had stepped up our number of persons on the road. In fact, for the last month, 6 weeks, we had most of our staff at the Ministry of Commerce, not only the Consumer Affairs Department, the other staff members of the other departments. We went around, get baseline data, and now what we're doing is the monitoring and to compare. If you realize at the last Parliament session as well, I started telling you, giving you information as to what the prices were and the reductions. And that is continuing. We are also working with the National Consumers Association, and we also have a hotline that anybody can call to give us information. We've done so and we will continue to do so. But I also want to say that we have received a commitment from the business community that they are going to work with us. As a government, if we believe that the business community is not working with us based on the data when we get it, then we do other things.
The minister underscored the government's intention to dispel misrepresentations of its economic policies, particularly in light of the impending election cycle. Gina Filippi, HDS News 4.
And of course, thanks to HDS for that clip. Of course, Emma Hippolyte, the island's Minister for Commerce, with her take on the matter coming up. Of course, August the 1st is that day where we should be seeing the implementation of these renewed or revised VAT rates on food. And certainly, I think very, very welcome, not just in terms of the food, the VAT, but also, of course, the service charge. Very, very welcome, because I think it also included things that are very much necessary, fruits and vegetables. And it was a little strange that we actually had VAT on those types of items. And it is certainly important that your tax regime is taxing the right places. And in some places, I think like in the UK, for example, I stand to be corrected, but I believe that most food is in fact free of VAT. They're zero rated. So it certainly looks at other areas in which to be able to tax. But food has always been a really important aspect of survival. We've got to eat to be able to survive. There are a lot of things that we can perhaps do without. And it's not to say that these things are necessarily luxurious items, but the matter of food is certainly a really important one. The aspect, of course, of growing more and producing more of our own food is also really important. In fact, a number of items on the that price control list are actually inputs into agricultural items, agricultural inputs. And so the thinking there, of course, is that we should be able to produce a lot more of our own food as well. And so there has to be that combined drive when it comes to the matter of our food food security, and where we can in fact seek to offset some of that more so by our local production. And I think it's a really important step. In fact, just yesterday, one of our callers made mention of Singapore and what a remarkable country that Singapore is. It doesn't have very much water. It's got very limited watershed areas, a very flat island. A lot of the water that it actually consumes has to be imported onto the island from neighboring Malaysia. But it certainly has advanced and has made do with every last drop that comes in, to the point where it can recycle almost, all the water. It's almost like a closed loop that they're trying to achieve. And so whereas we may generally think of wastewater and sewage, just, once it's treated, and in many instances we don't even treat it, but it's treated and it is headed out into the ocean, not in Singapore. And they're trying to ensure that even all of that water is purified to such an extent that it can be reutilized for even the potential for drinking in some instances. But they're also doing some remarkable things in the case of agriculture. And this is a country the size of St. Lucia, and I think only about 1% or thereabouts of the land is considered arable. A very small amount of land available for agriculture in Singapore. Of course, it is very densely populated, with over 5 million people living on the size of an island, a little bigger than St. Lucia. And you, of course, have to maximize the land that is available. And so they, in fact, have, taken on as a goal to be able to produce 30% of all that they consume, right, from their own local production. That's their goal, 30%. And that's 30% of food for 5 million people, right? The size of St. Lucia, roughly. And so we certainly have our own challenges when it comes to food production. We have only about 6% of our island, the land that we have, being considered arable. But we do have a lot of other land that may not necessarily be arable, but could be utilized for tree crops and other forms of agriculture as well. But we are nowhere near that kind of mark where we can say that we're covering that extent in terms of that proportion of our food coming from local production. And it means that has to also be a major priority for the state. How do you innovate? How do you find ways of maximizing on the available lands that we have, conserving the available lands that we have, because that too is another major problem. Nearly every other plot of flat land, somebody is eyeing it for some sort of industrial, commercial, or non-agricultural purpose, right? And so how then do you get back to that point where agriculture is seen as a premium, agricultural land is seen as being very important, and so that we can in fact deal with boosting our own agricultural production. So certainly in terms of the long term, it is one of the areas that we have to consider in that regard. There are some people who will argue as well that, you produce what you think you can fetch the best price for. And that's also a very important approach in this matter in terms of what we should be producing locally, or what we should be trying to produce within the local market, especially given the types of prices that we are seeing. And we know, of course, that there's been a significant shift in the tastes of individuals, and lots of things that people want to be able to have are being driven by a global market, a global taste, and expectation of food. And we've seen that change, right? But at the same time, the importance, of course, of eating what you grow has to also be balanced with the other side of that, of growing what you eat. And so you've got to kind of also see, can we do more on the growing what we eat side too? Because people's tastes are changing. And especially when you look at the prices of certain vegetables and fruits on the shelves, and a lot of those are in fact imported. Yes, you've got the obvious local ones that should certainly be getting into every school bag and whatnot. The banana a day, which is something that we've been speaking about for quite some time. Every child in a St. Lucian school should probably be able to get at least a banana a day, which of course we have been producing in St. Lucia for a very long time. But can we also be looking at, through smart agriculture, climate-controlled agriculture, the other side of it now, being able to produce things that would not necessarily grow normally here. Now, of course, we are seeing a lot more people into things like production of mushrooms, right? And especially when you're dealing with the temperate type of mushrooms, you've got to be producing those in climate-controlled containers or environments, right? But it can potentially make economic sense if you're comparing the prices with what ends up being imported, because these things, of course, have freight costs and they have shipping, other costs related to getting them there, and it's refrigerated shipping in most instances as well. So those aspects certainly are something that we should be thinking of. I know there are some people who are thinking about, hey, can we grow our own grapes, and can we grow our own strawberries in the right types of shade houses and environments and what have you. And so it's not something that's too far-fetched. And we'd be quite surprised at what some of the other islands have been able to achieve. Even in neighboring Barbados, they're self-sufficient in things like onions, and should we perhaps even, not even too sure if we grow anything in that way in the case of St. Lucia, but things to think about when we really are talking about food prices and food security in the long run, because that certainly is a matter of security. There's a reason why we call it food security, because if something goes wrong with that ship, if something can't get out of the port of Miami, if the container can't come through the Panama Canal for whatever different reasons and whatnot, are we going to be in that position where we will starve as a country? So definitely the ideal is to be able to get to a point where we are definitely seeing a lot more of the local production right here in St. Lucia. Of course, you would have heard that the island recently opened up a hydroponics system at the Union Agricultural Estate, that being a gift of the government of Guyana. The Prime Minister visited Guyana and was able to see a number of their facilities where they're putting money in. And it's good to see that Guyana is not forgetting the importance of agriculture and noting that they have that potential. Perhaps learning from the mistakes of countries like Trinidad in that regard, that they've got the oil and gas money now, and they're not just going to splurge it on everything, but they're also going to invest some of that money into industries, including agriculture, where in fact they can be global leaders. And so certainly Guyana is doing some amazing things with respect to production of wheat and you name it, and they're producing it. And in fact, they were kind enough to provide assistance to St. Lucia in the establishment of this hydroponics facility which has in fact been set up at the Union Agricultural Station. And so hopefully we might be able to see more of that and other types of facilities like these that can in fact support production of food regardless of the season, regardless of the weather that we are facing. So very important moves, and let's hope that we can see some relief in terms of food prices, but let's also hope that we can see a lot more of local foods on our supermarket shelves as well, and of course on our plates. So that's our program for today, and we do hope that you can join us again tomorrow for another one of the Lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. Have a good one.
Girl, I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home.
Really?
Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with the tile stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up.
What are you looking for?
Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle dazzle.
Okay, Ms. Razzle Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Style Tile and Bath, they're my number one store for everything tile. And with their new In Living Color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous styles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for.
That sounds perfect.
I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation.
I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our Island Style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and View Fort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. We'll help bring your vision to life in living color.
This is the Caribbean sound. We are the station with the best variety. Best variety. Lock us in and rip off the knob.
Ooh, wow!